The 39 Apartments of Ludwig van Beethoven. Fact: Ludwig van Beethoven was born in the town of Bonn in the country of Germany in the year 1770. Years later, he became a great composer. Fact: Ludwig van Beethoven owned 5 legless pianos and composed great works on the floor. Fact: Ludwig van Beethoven lived in 39 different apartments, which is of course the subject of our story. But now things get fuzzier. Did our hero really pour water on top of his head while composing? Why did he live in so many different apartments? And what were those apartments like? As far as we can tell, Beethoven's first apartment was a beautiful parlor in the center of Vienna, which is the capital of Austria. Here, it seems, he composed the Moonlight Sonata and his first symphony. But Ludwig forgot to pay the rent, so he was kicked out. This was a problem because, fact, it is very difficult to move a piano, and fact, it is even more difficult to move 5 pianos. After 2 centuries of research, we still have no clues as to how all the pianos made it from one apartment to the next. Nor can we be certain that the following sentence is true, but here it is. Ludwig van Beethoven's next home was a basement apartment in a dangerous part of town. Here, he composed piano sonatas 3 through 17, his violin concerto in D major, and the Second Symphony. Why did Ludwig move after only 8.5 days? Was it, as his diary suggests, because of the hideous stinky cheese smell that filled his apartment? We do not know. Nor do we truly know how the pianos made it out of the building, but scuff marks discovered in the hallway can mean only one thing. The pianos must have been slid through the back door, then drawn up to the roof by a system of pulleys and lowered onto a second-floor balcony at the front of the building, where the neighbors must have been kind enough to allow the movers to wheel the pianos through their apartment to the stairway, down the stairs, and out the front door. It is unclear how the pianos made it into Ludwig van Beethoven's next apartment, which was like a palace, full of light and air. From the terrace he had a view of the Danube River, and it is likely that the smell of Viennese coffee wafted in through his open windows. Here he composed symphonies 3 through 5, piano sonatas 18 through 23, and many chamber works for clarinet, bassoon, oboe, flute, and English horn, in addition to several string trios. It was indeed a busy time. But Ludwig van Beethoven was going deaf, and he had to bang quite loudly on the 5 pianos to hear anything. Much research has revealed that there were complaints from the neighbors about the noise. Bits of paper have been discovered. And then there are the dents in the ceiling of his downstairs neighbor, probably made by a broomstick banged repeatedly. Poor Ludwig was again kicked out. By now, the movers were certainly getting fed up. In the diary of one Anselm Schwartz, we find the following, translated here into modern English. After this move, I'm out of here. The records do show that this job was a humdinger. The easy part was moving the pianos out. They were simply lowered from the balcony, and all went smoothly. The hard part was moving the pianos into the new apartment, which was tiny and in an attic. It seems the movers had to push the pianos through the old castle next door, through the grand hall displaying suits of armor, up 3 flights of stairs, and into a dentist's office. The movers then bashed in the wall. They passed through the dentist's apartment and out into the hallway, and then up onto Ludwig van Beethoven's new roof, where they could be lowered carefully, then hoisted into his tiny attic apartment, which, luckily, had an enormous window. Here, Beethoven wrote all his piano concerti, as well as his famous pastoral symphony. It was gorgeous music, but repeated complaints were filed with the local magistrate, mostly by one neighbor, a certain Fräulein Inge Hausfrau. In one complaint, she demands the maestro's immediate arrest because that madman is banging on those blasted pianos day and night. And yet, it appears that Ludwig could hardly hear his pianos at all. After much growling and pouring of water over his own head, he quite likely decided that there must be something wrong with this apartment. It was time to move once again. Probably because it had been so much work getting the pianos into this apartment, Ludwig van Beethoven decided to leave them. He needed some new pianos anyway, since the old ones weren't loud enough, or so he thought. By now, Beethoven's hearing had gotten so bad that when he played his new pianos in his stylish new apartment, he played bangingly loud. This notion is supported by a startling discovery made in the neighbors' apartments: hundreds of cotton balls with traces of dried earwax. Clearly, the noise was unbearable. And the neighbors must have been furious. Scraps of an old eviction notice show that Ludwig van Beethoven was booted after only 1 day. It should be noted, however, that during that 1 day, he composed 10 violin sonatas, 2 more symphonies, and 1 more string quartet. It seems to have been a good place to work. Not surprisingly, the great composer was somewhat upset at being kicked out. "Don't these fools know who I am?" he scrawled on the bathroom wall. Certainly the movers had lost all patience with schlepping Ludwig's many pianos up and down stairways. A diagram has been found, clearly drawn by the movers, revealing a new plan in which the pianos would never have to touch the ground. A large slide would be constructed, much like a cement truck's enormous funnel. The movers must have studied the bold plan carefully before attempting it. The slide would stick out the window and extend all the way to a chimney several blocks away. The pianos would slide out the window toward the chimney, where a catapult would shoot them up into the air. The pianos would then fall straight through a hole in the ceiling of Ludwig van Beethoven's new apartment, where a gigantic piano-sized pillow would cushion their fall. But, according to various eyewitness accounts and newspaper articles from that day, the entire device blew away in a storm. Fact. That's all we know of the 39 apartments of Ludwig van Beethoven.